Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome back to the Empire Partner Studio. My name is Bule Mugwena from the Empire Partner Foundation. Today we have a special guest. We want to speak about his area of expertise, where he has traversed. Give me the opportunity this afternoon to introduce to you the irrepressible, effervescent, energetic, and bubbly Mr. Gregory Mofokeng. Good afternoon, Book.
Good afternoon, Gwen, and good afternoon to the viewers.
How has your day been?
My day has been hectic. It's been back-to-back meetings, and I'm here so that we can conduct this interview, but it has been a very interesting day up until this point.
No, thank you very much for taking the time to come and grace us with your presence, and for also allowing to come and share your pearls of wisdom for the journey that you have traversed in the business world. You occupy a number of positions in industry. If I could just mention a few. One of them is you are the CEO of the BBCBE, the Black Business Council in the built environment. You are also a non-executive director at Motel Construction. As if that's not enough, you are also chairman of TISIS Capital Growth, a financial services company. And last but not least, you are also vice president business at the Black Business Council. How do you juggle these positions around? And where do you get the energy?
The energy is there when I wake up in the morning, so I just utilize it because it's there. I guess, Gwena is the journey that I've traversed so far, as you alluded to earlier. And one has learned to multitask, and one has learned to be active in all of these areas. So it's been an interesting journey up until this point. And I'm able to juggle all of these responsibilities because time management is one of my strong points. So I guess, I'm able to be active in all these areas and still be effective.
No, that's great to hear that. I mean, time management, I know, is a challenge for many people. And they'll always tell you about traffic, for having not made it on time. But I saw you this afternoon that you're actually here long before the scheduled interview. And thank you very much for being that kind of a person. Back to why we are here. I mentioned earlier on that we wanted to speak about your area of expertise or where you are involved in housing. Just briefly about why we wanted to speak about that. The Empire Partner Foundation is a non-profit organization. I think you know that. You're a friend of the organization. We aim to tackle challenges in the socio-economic environment that affect the public. And one of those challenges is housing. And if I may just go back to Section 26.1 of the Bill of Rights, it says, if I may quote it, I think it speaks about the right to access to decent housing. So I just wanted to know, from where you have been active, how has the BBCBE, played a role? I know that your role is more on the policy side of things, but in terms of making sure that members of our population have that access to housing, what has the role been?
So first and foremost, because we are a business chamber representing players in the housing value chain, starting from professionals in the built environment space, engineers, architects, and so on, also representing contractors in this space, as well as material manufacturers and suppliers. So, our role actually covers the broader value chain of the housing, the housing sector. And I think first and foremost, because we're a business chamber, our role becomes primarily that of a policy driver. So We've played a very significant role in terms of ensuring that the policy environment that prevails in the housing market is conducive for government to deliver housing and for people to receive this benefit of housing that is there, also enshrined in our Bill of Rights, as you've said. So we are very active in terms of engagement with the Department of Human Settlements. We are very active in terms of engagements with the NHBRC, which is the regulator when it comes to the housing space. So we are very active in that space to influence policy to make sure that the environment is conducive for housing delivery to happen. Now, as far as our members are concerned, we're very active in ensuring that even those that are involved in the development space do get access to financing so that they can be able to deliver houses for people, and also to make sure that when one looks at the latest trends in terms of alternative building technologies, that we do have members who play a role in that space to make sure that we can have alternative building technologies to hasten housing delivery, but also to deliver quality product to the beneficiaries of houses in our country.
No, it's interesting to hear that. When you speak about alternative building technology, one would, make light of that when you see the springing up of informal settlements. We know when you travel to the Vaal, you see a lot of them along the highway. And yes, you speak about influencing policy. What has the reaction of government been regarding the growth of this informal settlement? And I think they're using alternative building technologies as well.
Look, the reaction of government, has been mixed as far as we are concerned. When it comes to how to address the issue of, all of this, informal settlements that are coming up, everywhere, especially in Gauteng. The issue is that there are policies in place, but we find that the problem is in the implementation.
Okay.
So, the Gauteng provincial government, for instance, has a program to deal with, informal settlements. We are supposed to be in the process of making sure that we clear those so that we can house people properly. But unfortunately, the programs that government has designed itself are not being properly implemented, and hence you see this unending, thriving of, informal settlements everywhere throughout the province and in other metropoles in the country. Now, when it comes to alternative building technology, obviously the hope is that government will be able, to adopt alternative building technology in the provision of, affordable housing, so that we can be able to deliver houses at a much more faster pace. But unfortunately, again, because government has not invested enough resources in awareness, people are actually, more prone to rejecting ABTs simply because they don't understand ABTs and they do not understand the benefits of ABTs. So we are talking to government through structures such as the NHBRC, South African Bureau of Standards, SABS, to make sure that we are able to promote ABTs so that people can appreciate ABTs and they can accept them, to say that an ABT house is as good as a brick and mortar house.
No, thank you. Talking about the rejection of ABTs by our populace, I would juxtapose that and put it back to government. At the height of COVID, when the schools were closed, there was a requirement that there should be more classes that can be built. And I know a few companies, because I read in the newspaper, and some of them are companies that I know that are involved in the IBT space. And there was no willingness from specifically the housing government to enlist and engage those companies to ensure that they can assist in extending classrooms in order that, classes would not have to be minimized, and, there wouldn't be these alternative arrangements of learners having to go to school on alternative days. What do you think could have been the reason for government to not accept that immediately?
Look, it will be mere speculation on my side, but I can tell you about what we see, in engaging with government, because the very same government used alternative building technologies in terms of providing additional hospital beds. Okay. So if you go to the hospital that was built in Nasrec, for instance, that was ABT. Okay. So you have the same government on the one hand, they are able to, make a decision that we can utilize ABT. But on the other hand, the same government, does not want to appreciate the application of ABTs in schools, for instance. So again, it's about the individuals that are there that are making decisions, because it doesn't make sense that the same government will find it appropriate to use ABTs in order to build hospitals so that we can have beds available for people that were affected by COVID. But the same government does not want to do the same in terms of classrooms. So it doesn't make sense. And one can only say it can't be government policy.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of certain individuals taking those decisions that at the end do not make sense.
No, I hear you. I will agree with you totally as far as that is concerned. You mentioned earlier on that as part of the BBCBE's role in assisting its members is also to try and get access, to funding and assist them in that role. I know your other role as chairperson of TISIS, you deal a lot with assisting SMMEs and assisting black business in particular. How has that role assisted you in fulfilling the other role within the BBCBE as CEO?
Well, it has contributed immensely because one gets to appreciate how the financial services sector works.
Yeah.
And I must say that at the BBCBE level, we have managed to conclude a memorandum of understanding with the National Housing Finance Corporation, which again is an entity owned by government. So it's a development financial institution that is owned by government under the Department of Human Settlements. And that MOU is very specific in terms of assisting emerging black developers to be able to play a much more significant role in the housing delivery space. So we are hoping that through such interventions, our black developers will then be empowered financially and otherwise to deliver, on the promise that government has made to people that, people will be housed and will make affordable housing available to the masses of this country.
No, thank you for that. You've been very successful, as a transformation advocate, if I may call it that. And that role, I think, has seen you growing, in leaps and bounds and getting acceptance. And today you are the Vice President for Business at the Black Business Council. How do you think the journey has gone so far as transformation in general has gone?
Well, we have registered certain successes, and there is a lot that still needs to be done. Yeah. And as you might know, Kwena, we've had various rounds or waves of BE, from the first wave. I think now we are at the fifth wave of BE. And I think when you look at what BE is meant to achieve, there's still quite a lot that needs to be done. So if you look at the economy of the country, it is still largely white-owned. Black participation at ownership level is still very minimal. Therefore, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. And, organizations such as the BBC, have their work cut out. So we still have a lot of work to do to make sure that when you look at the demographics in terms of the ownership of the economy of this country, that it has to reflect the demographics of the country. At the moment, it is not reflective of the demographics of the country. And until such, a state is achieved, we have a lot of work to do.
No, thank you for that. I can attest to that, and I concur with you. Moving over to another area of interest, flowing from what you said around transformation. Recently in the news has been the issue, or rather let me say, data today is called the new gold. We are in the tech space, and in terms of communication, data is quite critical. And South Africa is known to be having very high data prices, and the speeds of transacting, especially, on our laptops and also just getting connected, is very slow because of data. And I know that there has been the auction of the spectrum taking place. Where do you see that process unfolding up to?
Well, we have been on this journey for quite some time. As you know, that even this very auction that we're talking about today is long overdue. And obviously, government's plan to reduce data costs are linked to the spectrum auction. So we are hoping, Kwena, that this spectrum auction will be successful, so that the telcos can get access to the spectrum, and we can then be able to see the reduction of cost when it comes to data in this country. Because comparatively speaking, we are very expensive, even compared to countries with the same profile as we have. So we are hoping that this spectrum will then assist the telcos in terms of reducing the data costs. On the other side, of course, we are also still worried about the transformation of the very same space. and we are working together with government to ensure that the other spectrum that is set aside for emerging black companies in that space is also going to be advertised soon, so that we can also see introduction of black players in that space that will also lead into further reduction of data costs. So overall, I think we are moving towards the right direction. The issue now is the speed at which we can implement all these interventions so that in the end, data costs can be reduced, and that obviously leads to the reduced cost of doing business, which obviously is good for the economy of the country.
Thank you. I think the people that are going to benefit mostly, it's not only business, but our youth. And South Africa and Africa boasts a youth dividend. I know that from the BBCBE, you have engaged youth and you've got a youth platform. What is it that we can do for our youth in our country? We, as the Empire Partner Foundation, we give them an opportunity to develop solutions using technology, to come up with innovative tech solutions. What are you doing, or what can we do as a country to ensure that our youth are engaged and they are unemployed?
As far as, again, the role of the Black Business Council is concerned, is to create an enabling environment for our youth to be able to be fully utilized, in the economy of the country. And then I think what is important is that the policies are there. We have made sure that there are policies that support, the empowerment of youth. What we again need to do is to make sure that those policies are implemented. That's number one. Number two, we need to support our youth. Through what Empire is doing, others must also be able to learn from this and implement that in their own little spaces, where we are able to bring the youth on board, give them the platform so that they can be able to introduce their ideas. Once those ideas are there, we need to support them. One of the issues that we need to critically talk about is how do we fund youth-owned businesses? Because as a country, we need to take the risk on our youth. No one else is going to take the risk on our youth. So we cannot have youth that are coming from disadvantaged backgrounds, who are coming with innovative ideas, but there is no support for them, including financial support. So we need to look at all of that and look at how we can then support our youth, in real terms, so that our youth can then be able to be productive, so that we can then benefit from this youth dividend that we're talking about. Because if we don't invest in our youth, this youth dividend that everybody's talking about, we are not going to be able to benefit from it.
No, I agree with you. No, thank you very much. And lastly, Puka, what keeps you awake at night?
What keeps me awake at night, Kwena, is the fact that we have such a high unemployment in this country, and especially youth, unemployment. That's what keeps me awake at night. And I think, in everything that I do, I create space for our youth to be able to participate and invest their energies, invest their ideas, so that we can then be able to address this issue, because it is one of the major issues that can actually lead into, social instability in this country. So we all have to be concerned about this, and we must generate ideas and implement those ideas to make sure that we reverse this kind of a situation that we find ourselves in at the moment.
Thank you very much. Our time is up, and I thank you for your time that you've spent with us, and I'm sure that your pearls of wisdom will resonate with our viewers and the public at large.
It has been an absolute pleasure. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.